Early this election season, voters say education is a priority. Recent polls from Predictive Insights in Phoenix reveal issues that voters care about most and who they support in high profile races. We learn more about the results from Chief of Research, Mike Noble, starting with Governor Ducey's COVID-19 response and his latest approval ratings.
His job handling of coronavirus. He went from in June, beginning of June, we were just starting to see the spikes of cases here in Arizona. Uh, we took a snapshot and he was 2-to-1 favorability. So 60% approved of his handling of the coronavirus, 28% or so did not. Just in that month time frame, he went from 2-to-1 positive, 2-to-1 negative. So you had roughly, 55% disapproving of his job handling coronavirus, and roughly 28% that are approving of it. So it's interesting. In a matter of 30 days, he essentially his favorability flipped upside down.
People always wonder, who are you polling? Are these Republicans and Democrats?
We pick likely voters, so people that have a decent chance and probably are coming out to the polls. And so collecting that group, but also make sure it's representative of the population. So that's not just party affiliation, so the right amount of Republicans, Democrats, and independents, but also region, age, gender, ethnicity, because we have a large Hispanic population here in Arizona. And also the biggest one, which white pollsters kind of maybe some of them missed in 2016 elections, where they got some heat about the election results, education level. So folks with a college degree and folks that do not have a college degree, making sure you weight by that, because that was a huge divide in the 16 election, and of course still a big divide today.
You've been busy these last few months polling the Senate race as well. Martha McSally showing some very slow gains.
When you're looking at the Senate, Martha actually started up a few points, about 5 points, I believe, in this race. However, she's just slowly been going down over time. In our poll last 2 months ago, back in May, she was actually at rock bottom, I would say, at minus 13. So trailing Mark Kelly by 13 points, who Mark Kelly is a Democrat, and McSally is a Republican incumbent senator. The issue we see in our current polling shows McSally down 9, so she gained 4 points from before. So she made up a little ground, closed the gap. However, the issue is that she's doing very bad with her base is not as consolidated. Only 4 and 5 Republicans say they would vote for her if the election were held today. So her base, she's not really fully consolidated her base. Mark Kelly's base is really strong among Democrats. When you look at those all important independents in the middle, 2-to-1, they're breaking for Mark Kelly.
Some of the pundits have attributed that to her relationship with President Trump. Is that what you're finding?
Trump actually performs roughly 4 or 5 points better than McSally. So they get asked that question, then they say, hey, the U.S. Senate race, who are you voting for? McSally actually doesn't perform as strongly. So basically, the support doesn't fully translate over. So is McSally helping Trump, or is it the other way around? Here in Arizona, he's actually only minus 5, and then McSally's minus 9.
Many of us, as we go into these next 4 months, we can't turn on the television set without being inundated with ads. Who's spending the big bucks in Arizona?
Right now is that it's a battleground for president. So the road to 270, but also for U.S. Senate. And right now, Arizona is projected to have the highest spend in the Phoenix media market. Is projected to have the highest spend, broadcast spend, compared to Pennsylvania and others. In the last quarter, in fact, Mark Kelly was the #1 Senate candidate in the country. That includes incumbents or challengers, and he was even higher than Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. I mean, it's crazy that Mark Kelly, I don't think anyone has ever seen a challenger uh, run for a place to raise as much as it is. I mean, it's basically astronomical.
Every year, it seems recreational use of marijuana tries to get itself on the ballot. This year, it looks pretty likely. What does your polling tell you about what Arizonans want when it comes to that?
2016, it was on the ballot last, and it actually many projected that it was going to win. We're actually the only ones that said, "Hey, we think it's going to be close, but it's going to fall short," and it did. It landed up losing by about 2 points. And so now here we are, 4 years later, with it back on the ballot. And it's interesting. Right now, as of today, is 65% are in favor or would vote in for recreational, with roughly 40% or so again. So a huge advantage right now for the yes. So there really hasn't been a competitive no campaign. For example, 2016, yes, it barely lost, but there's also $5 million spent against it.
All right. And before we wrap, traditionally, border immigration is a topic that when you poll, people say they care about this issue in the state. Is that the case this year?
Arizona was made a name for itself when it comes to the immigration issue. Think about it. We're the home of SB 1070, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, former Sheriff, Paul Babu, all folks, all these other folks, the hardliners on immigration, right? And what's so interesting of the changes due to COVID, one of them is when COVID hit, it drove the concern or the priority among voters among immigration to the ground. And if you probably wouldn't believe it, immigration is not even in a top three issue among Arizona voters right now. It is education is actually number one, healthcare is number two, and number three is jobs in the economy.
Okay. All right. Mike Noble joining us from OH Predictive Insights in Phoenix. Thanks for your insight.
All right, thanks so much for having me.